when we ruled, everything came to us. Prey, diplomats, favor seekers. Such was our power. But we never put on white hats and called ourselves saints.
We were honest about what we were.
So that first clip was how I ended my last video, Breaking Dawn, the clip speaking about the white hats. I'm just going to continue more into the studies I have been doing. I would recommend a good place to start would be the video Messiah ben Joseph. I show the verses with Jesus talking about the drink offering, and I get into the following video, Vengeance is Mine, showing where Paul speaks of the coming one taking the drink offering. And then when I get to the Day of Yahweh, Day of the King and Queen, I prove out the Queen. And then Lilies of the Field, the Rose of Sharon, I show that the prophecy hidden right inside of Song of Songs and about the veils in the rose. And I go deeper into it in the following videos, and gonna kind of share some more in this video. So Deuteronomy 33, so we should all know this one by now, but the 13 through 17, speaking of Joseph and favor of him who lived on the bush, let it come on the head of Joseph, on the top of the head of him who was set apart from his brothers, like the firstborn of a bullock, that's a shore, is his glory, and the horns of a wild oxen, a reem, are his horns, and with them he will gore the peoples to the ends of the earth. These are the 10,000s of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. This is that, when they bring peace to the land, but the only way they're going to bring peace is ridding the enemies that don't want to bring peace. You have to do that through war, because they won't give up their power. And so that firstborn bullock, that shore, that's an animal destined to be slaughtered. That's his glory, going to be a sacrifice. And the horns of a wild ox and a shore, that's a sovereign and free animal. And you got that horns being like a crown. But another thing you could notice in here too, so you got that transformation from that, the yoked animal, the shore, to the sovereign free reem. It's a transformation of that descendant of Joseph. And you got him being compared to, like an animal, a cattle. Now, up in Job, so I spoke about this in the last video, you should know about the ready to rouse Leviathan, he who is ready. And they put those who are, but it should be he, speaking of the one that's going to raise them, the Eloah. And that Leviathan, you should know if you watch those videos that's that lamb. And you can even go deeper too. So like I said, to start from that Messiah ben Joseph video and go up, at minimum. But there's more types and shadows and stuff I've shown in the movies, starting at the Snow White Twilight, and that would help you kind of see more of these connections that I'll speak of, because I'm going to kind of go somewhat deeper in this video, and you might get lost if you kind of don't know the other stuff I've spoken on. But so let the star, it says stars, but it should be star, because it's speaking of that one being roused, because that Numbers 24, the star will lead forth Jacob, the scepter will rise out of Jacob. So this star, it's that Leviathan. The star of twilight will be dark, dead. And let it look for light, but find none. Remember too, and I spoke about the visions I received, and that was in some of those previous videos where, starting, from that Day of Yahweh, Day of the King and Queen, I prove out the Queen, and then And then, you know, from lilies of the field onward, in some of those videos I spoke of these visions I received and the revelations and these teachings from them. You'll have to see the videos to know them. But so not finding the light, kind of like that dream from the lilies of the from Song of Songs, I mean, from that, I believe it was chapter 2 or chapter 3 actually, with that green couch being in the house. But nor let it, when it's saying let it and let it, it's speaking about that star of twilight be dark, the one that's gonna die. See the eyelids of dawn, or see the breaking dawn.
The sun is rising. Look to my cabin at first light on the 5th day. At dawn, look to the east.
So that was from the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, and you see how it was breaking dawn there, and you know they end up riding out, and then Gandalf comes riding on a horse on the top of the hill coming down. So and there's connections, you know, with that Snow White and all that, and then Lord of the Rings, like I've shown. If you started with the video, the Lord of the Rings, the Exiled Christ, I show all that stuff in there too on the Lord of the Rings and the connections there. Now he had that ring with the Ouroboros on it, and it was like that tattoo that Kristen has on her wrist from that movie, Personal Shopper, and I showed a clip of it on there, how it shows it. But anyways, Job 39:8, he ranges the mountains for his pasture, he searches for every green thing. Now, if you watch the Day of Yahweh, Day of the King and Queen, you know about that green tree, you know, being the queen. But will the wild ox be willing to serve you, or stay by your feeding trough? Think that reem, the wild ox, you know, that Deuteronomy 33 prophecy. So can you tie the wild bull in the furrow with ropes? Or will he plow the valleys after you? Will you put your trust in him because his strength is immense? Or will you leave your labor to him? Will you have faith in him that he will bring home your seed and gather it into the barn? Think what John mentions in Matthew 3 about his winnowing shovel in his hands, bringing the wheat into the barn. Now, and you gotta remember too, the prophets, you know, speak in parables and stuff. Like this next little part's a little bit of a tongue twister almost. So the wings of the ostrich flap proudly. We know that's kind of like, you know, that's like that queen from Snow White. You know, that's that Trump. That's that type and shadow of him. They flap proudly, but not like the pinions of the stork being the queen, who leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust, and forgets that a foot might crush them, or a wild animal might tread on them. She, like that ostrich that flaps proudly, treats her, the stork's young, roughly as if not hers. You know, no fear of the queen coming back with the king in retribution. Her, that ostrich, labors in vain and without fear, because Eloah has deprived her of wisdom, nor has he imparted a share of understanding to her. It's like that Jeremiah 8, if you read through it, verses 1 through 8 or 9, but it speaks of the lion pen of the scribes has certainly worked deceit, and what wisdom is in them. So when she, the ostrich, lifts herself on high, she scorns the horse and its riders. So you got hidden right in this passage the queen and the king, with that green thing, the green tree being the queen, that wild oxen being the king. You know how you had I speak of that Joseph descendant as, you know, a wild bull. Well, now you get here him speaking of him as a horse, and its rider, the queen. So you see that type and shadow of Gandalf at that breaking down, coming down, and also notice he had a staff in his hand, Revelation 11, and I read like a scepter was given to me, rise up, measure the sanctuary of God. But let's go back to Revelation 19. And I saw the sky open, and there was a white horse, and one sitting on it, called Faithful and True, and in righteousness she judges and makes war. And their eyes, because think he's being compared as, that rider and the horse from Job 39, that horse being, the king, and, the queen being the rider. So their eyes were like a flame of fire. The house of Israel, fire, and, the house of Joseph, a flame, Obadiah. And there's another verse, and I believe it's Isaiah, speaking about, the Holy One, a flame. And on their head were many diadems, having names written, and a name that nobody knows but himself. So we know that name of, the king, and then that new name with that new pebble, Revelation 2 or 3. I've spoken about it in other videos. But, because there's that stone that's before Joshua and Zechariah 3, being the queen. And then Revelation 2, she gets a white pebble. And clothed with a garment dyed with blood. And her name is called the Oracle of God, or their name is called the Oracle of God. And the armies in the sky followed her on the white horse, clothed in fine linen. It's not white horses, it's her, clothed in fine linen. It even tells you about it in verses 7 and 8. Look, let us rejoice and be exceedingly glad and give preeminence to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready, and it was given to her that she should be clothed in resplendent and pure fine linen. For fine linen stands for the righteous acts of the set-apart people. And out of their mouth goes a sharp double-edged sword. Now, if you watch that Lilies of the Field, Rose of Sharon, you know about the double-edged sword. That's like king and queen. Because out of their mouth, that white horse and the rider, the queen, so that they can strike the nations with it. And she herself will shepherd them with a rod of iron. Remember that Micah 4 talks about making her horn iron. Micah 4:13, arise and tread like oxen, daughter of Zion, for I will make your horn iron, and I will make your hoofs brass. What's it say in Habakkuk 3, I believe? Talks about, Yahweh Adonai will make my feet like a deer. We know about that white hart stuff in the videos. If you watch my previous videos, you would get what I'm saying there. I'm not going to just completely give it away. But if you have ears to hear, I think you might understand. So, she will shepherd them with a rod of iron, that white horse, a king. And she herself treads the winepress of the wine of the boiling anger of the indignation of God the Almighty. I think at the beginning of Revelation, the God who is, who was, and who is coming, the Almighty. El who is, who was, and who is coming, the Almighty. God who is living, who was dead, and who is coming. Finally arrived when John heard the voice behind him. He's given the throne at that point. Gives the drink offering to the queen, and she goes out with witnesses, and which I'll get into that more. And on her garment and on her thighs, she has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Why? Think. If you're riding a horse, your thighs are on the horse and on your side. So that's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, that horse. And it's just like Solomon, Song of Songs, with the, chapter 3. I saw him whom my soul has loved. I saw him, I found him not. I think what I mentioned about that, the star twilight be dark, and I let it not find him, nor see the breaking dawn. I remember in that dream how that glittering spear, that light came and hit me and went down, and how the parable in it was seeing what she saw, feeling what she felt. So in the streets and the broad places I seek him whom my soul has loved. I sought him and found him not. And then that spear came. The watchmen have found me. And you read about watchmen beating her in this book too, being killed. Who are going round the city? Him whom my soul has loved saw ye. But little I passed on from them, till I found him whom my soul has loved. I seized him and let him not go. So her thighs are wrapped around him. I'm riding on the horse. Her thighs has his name, because it is the king. All in type and shadows. Hey, so when I mentioned a few minutes ago about the Revelation 2 or 3, I was speaking on Revelation 2:12 through 17, because he who has a sharp two-edged sword says these things. That's Jesus speaking. And then he says, submit, otherwise, if you do not, I am come to you quickly, and I will make war against them with the sword of my mouth. And like the sword of my mouth, seeing the parable of it, because he's got a mouth given to him. Kind of like, how about the secret of Revelation 13 with the two horns like a lamb, and a mouth was given to him because the one was killed, and then the other one comes up and speaks for him. So you get it where Jesus here, the sword of his mouth, because his mouth is that prince who's going to be turned king. So he who has ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the ecclesia group. To him who comes off victorious, I will give him the right to eat hidden manna. And I will give him a white pebble, and on the pebble a new name is written that nobody will know except he who receives it. See, this is that, when I said she, I should have said he, because this is, that king, because Genesis 49, speaking of Joseph from the shepherd, the stone of Israel, him being a stone. Then Zechariah 3, you got that stone that's standing before Joshua the high priest, that's that queen. So now in Revelation 10, and I saw a mighty angel, a mighty messenger come down out of the sky, clothed with a cloud and a rainbow over his head. Clothed with the cloud, think, he comes in the clouds. This is that Ephraim king. Because a rainbow over his head, it's like the covenant. And his face was like the sun, sun of righteousness rising and feeling in his wings. So his legs like pillars of fire. It's like the authority making a pillar. And he had in his hand a scroll, and he placed his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the earth. He has authority over it. And he called with a loud voice, as when a lion roars, and when he called out, the seven thunders uttered their sounds. Those are those other messengers of the churches. When the thunders had spoken, I was about to write, and then I heard a voice out of the sky saying, seal up the things the seven thunders uttered, and do not write them. And the messenger I saw standing on the sea and upon the earth lifted up his right hand into the sky. Song of Songs 8:6. Set me as a seal on thy heart, as a seal on thine arm, Yah. For as strong as death is love, sharp as Sheol is jealousy. Its burnings are burnings of fire, a flame of many waters are not able to quench the love, and floods do not wash it away. If one give all wealth of his house for love, treading down they tread upon it. So that seal on thine arm, that's that queen there. So that Genesis 49:24. But his bow abides in agility. The arms of his hands are made supple by the Jacob, the mighty one of Jacob. from the shepherd, the stone of Israel, with those arms of his hands. That's the queen there. So back here in Revelation 10, we left off. So that messenger standing on the sea and on the earth, that's that king I mentioned. Because he's the one who is, who was, and who was coming. And was given authority and all that. So his right hand up to the sky, that's the queen. And she swore by him who lives throughout the durations of the eon. He who founded heaven and the things in it, and the earth and the things in it, and the sea and the things in it, that there will no longer be any delay. But in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, when he is about to sound the trumpet, then the mystery of God is brought to a close, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. And the voice that I heard out of the sky was again speaking with me, saying, it's that one that came down, the king. And this is in foreshadowing. So the one speaking to him, that's the queen here. The right hand that lifted the hand, the hand up towards the sky. Swore by him who lives throughout the durations of the eon. So it's set to that one, saying, go, take the little scroll opened in the hand of the messenger standing on the sea and on the earth. And I went off to the messenger, asking him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, take it and eat it, and it will make your belly bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey. And I said, drink offering. And I took the scroll out of the hand of the messenger, and I ate it, and in my mouth it was as sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And he said to me, you must prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and languages and kings. And a reed like a scepter was given to me. I think like Gandalf sitting at the breaking of the dawn, riding on the horse with a staff in his hand. Just had to show this in Genesis 28. So this is that Jacob's ladder dream, and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending on it, and then Yahweh was standing above it, and he said, I am Yahweh Elohim of your father Abraham, and Elohim of Isaac, and the land in which you're lying I will give to you and your seed. So this is, the dream Jacob had, and, Jacob woke out of his sleep in verse 16, and he said, surely Yahweh is in this place, and I was not aware. And he was frightened, he said, how fearful is this place? And this is none other than the house of Elohim. This is the gate of the heavens. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and he took a stone that he had put for his pillow and set it up as a pillar, and he poured oil on the top of it. As we hear about from the shepherd, the stone of Israel, from Joseph, because there's that clue. Because then even in Genesis 48, he mentions how El Shaddai appeared to him, and this is this one from this vision, because he has a dream later, and he says, I am the El of Bethel. But anyways, and he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city had first been Luz. And Jacob made a solemn vow, saying, if Elohim will be with me and keep me in the way I should go, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I return in peace to my father's house, then Yahweh will be my Elohim. And this rock that I have set for a pillar will become the house of Elohim. Of everything you give to me, I will surely give a tenth to you. So that rock, that's that stone of Israel, Yahweh, the Lord, my God. Because you also hear in like Isaiah 19, Yahweh rides on the clouds, and you hear other verses about him being in the clouds, and Jesus saying in Revelation 1, he comes with the clouds. Speaking of, that's that coming one, that Joseph descendant. So that event in Revelation 10 with the queen or princess taking the scroll is right here in Psalm 116. I love you, Yahweh, because he has heard my voice, the Lord. My request, because he has inclined his ears towards me. I will call on him throughout my days. The cords of death entangled me, and distress of the grave found me. I think what we're reading, in Song of Songs 8:6, for as strong as death is love, sharp as shield is jealousy. So, next seal. I found trouble and sorrow. I will call on the name of Yahweh. O Yahweh, I plead with you, rescue my life. Yahweh is gracious and righteous. Yes, our Elohim is full of compassion. Yahweh preserves the guileless. I was brought low and he helped me. Return to your rest, O my inner being, because Yahweh has blessed you. Think too that, in Habakkuk, making the feet like the feet of a deer or of a hart. I think that white hart I've shown in some previous videos, when he bows and he was like, oh, he's blessing her. Little type in shadows. Think of Ezekiel 38:10. At that time words will come in your mind and you'll devise an evil plan. Something like that's written. So if words can come in your mind for that, they could also come in the mind to, for good and for revealing. For you have rescued my life from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from falling. I will walk before Yahweh in the lands of the living. I believed, therefore I said, I was horribly afflicted. I said in my haste, every man is a liar. In that way I can make a return to Yahweh for all his benefits to me. I will take the cup of salvation and I will call on the name of Yahweh. That's that drink offering. Taking the scroll and eating it, sweet as honey in the mouth, bitter in the stomach. I will make my vows to Yahweh now in the presence of all his people. I think that's that prophesying again for many days. Because this is the marriage of the Lamb. The vow to the marriage. Costly in the sight of Yahweh is the death of his excellent people. Yahweh, truly I am your servant. I am your servant, the son of your handmaid. You have loosened my chains. I will sacrifice to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving. Now think too how he set aside the first to establish the second from Hebrews 10. And I spoke about it in the video Vengeance is Mine. And that went to Psalm 10 or 40, in the scriptures that he quoted from before mentioning that. In that same one, it mentions sacrifice and offering you don't desire, but I come to do your will. It was like with thanksgiving. You got another one here, offering a sacrifice with thanksgiving. I think loosening my chains, because that made me go with that MK Ultra stuff I've been speaking about. You can see that MK Ultra programming throughout those movies, which I spoke about it in Snow White, Twilight, and some of those videos after that one. And in the White Rabbit Hole, showed a bunch of clips on MK Ultra. But those could be some chains that can be loosened, huh? And I will call on the name of Yahweh, and I will make my vows to Yahweh now in the presence of all his people, in the courts of Yahweh's house, in your center. O Jerusalem, hallelujah. But that could be saying like, oh bride, or queen, princess, or daughter. Because think of that Zephaniah 3, how they try putting Jerusalem in there, but then at the first chapter in that book, it talks about his hand being against Judah and Jerusalem. Because that lying pen of the scribes has certainly worked deceit. Jeremiah 8, 1-8. Speaking about Judah and Jerusalem in context, and there are the lion pens of the scribe, Jeremiah 17, the sin of Judah written on the tablets of their hearts, because that lion pen of the scribes, you think the Christ comes from Judah. That's a lie. Habakkuk 3:19, Yahweh Adonai is my strength. He will make my feet like a deer's. You watch my previous video, you seen those little typing shadows with that deer and stuff, and that Snow White, that white heart, Yahweh being the king, and she's gonna have a transformation too. Could be that Leviathan lamb. They're gonna hide from her at her resurrection. But yeah, we know Habakkuk talks about Yahweh being in his appointed covenant or temple, and let all their hush, keep silence before him. Yahweh, renew your work. He got concealment of his strength, the pestilence going before him. Burning coals went out. He stood and measured the earth and looked and caused the nations to shake. I think he might have been measuring the earth when that reed was given to her, and stood and measured the sanctuary of God. Revelation 11, because it really kind of begins in Revelation 10. Could be one chapter there. Was Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was your anger against the rivers? Was your fury against the sea? You rode on your horses, your chariots of deliverance. Empty will your bow be made, the oaths sworn by the tribes by a word, Selah. But, I got this glittering spear here, marching through the land. You came out for the salvation of your people, for salvation with your anointed. You dashed in pieces the head from the house of the lawless by stripping them from foot to neck. Look, hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the Lamb. They're, both anointed ones. She gets that drink offering, the queen does. But the oaths sworn to the tribes by a word.
So we made this oath. Whoever died first was on the other side.
So that's from Personal Shopper. She has a twin brother, Lewis, in that movie. Now some little type in shadows here. Song of Songs 4. As a work of the pomegranate is thy temple behind the veil. Now thank in my other videos I showed you the foreshadowings of this, so you know how that's that drink, part of that drink offering. Because, from being under the tree. So as a tower, David is thy neck, built for an armory. The chief of the shields are hung on it, all shields of the mighty. The two breasts are as two fawns, twins of a roe, feeding among the lilies. Think their bed is the grass from Song of Songs 116. Lo, thou art fair, my love, yeah, pleasant, or yeah, our couch is green, or our couch, our bed is the green grass, some Bible translations put it. But you see that type in shadows in twilight, how they're laying in the grass among lilies, till the day doth break forth. I think that breaking dawn, and the shadows have fled away. They're gonna scatter at it. That frankincense, about that sweet savor from the sacrifice. But thou hast emboldened me, my sister spouse, emboldened me with thine eyes, with one chain of thy neck. How wonderful have been thy loves, my sister spouse, and how much better have been thy loves than wine, and the fragrance of thy perfume than all spices.
Nice.
So that was the end of the movie, and that was her twin brother Lewis giving the sign, the drink offering. So, take the scroll and eat it. It will be as sweet as honey in your mouth, and as soon as I eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And you got to prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and languages and kings. I think making that vow to the Lord, Psalm 116. So I want to read like a scepter was given to me. Think of that Gandalf riding on the horse with the scepter. But the horse and the rider, that proud ostrich is going to be flapping its wings against.
I'll meet you at the altar.
I'll be the one in white.
It was very convincing.
So that clip was from Twilight, Breaking Dawn, but Revelation 16:5, and I heard the messenger of the waters. That's the king, the messenger of the water, the voice of many waters, because he's speaking to the queen here. You are righteous, you who are, living, you who were dead, you who are pure, because you have exercised judgment in these things. See, they're probably going to call her a witch. Think of the predictive programming they're doing now. You heard Trump saying, oh, the witch hunt, the witch hunt. They're going to be calling her a witch probably. For they poured out blood of the set apart people and the prophets, and you have given them blood to drink. They are deserving. And I heard a voice from the altar saying, Yes, Lord God the Almighty, true and righteous are your judgments. I think too, the bride is dressed in white here, but want to point out more stuff from that Sting song, Desert Rose, because remember how I went in there with each of their veils, a secret promise, and you know about the veils, lilies of the field, the rose of Sharon, and some of the videos right after that one, that sweet perfume being the sacrifice, and as she turns, lay, how it sounds like lay, and this way she moves in the logic of my dreams. You know, in my dreams I saw the one laying down, crawling, and now it's even more cool when you come up here and you read a dream of fire, lay. Those dreams are tied to a horse that will never tire, and in the flames, lay. Her shadows play in the shape of a man's desire, this desert rose. But that horse that will never tire, think of Isaiah 40:28. Have you not known? Have you not heard? God, age-enduring Lord, creator of the ends of the earth. That's what those words are. Does not faint, nor is weary. He doesn't get tired. So, and it's funny because the same passage here, you got the prepare the way of Yahweh and make straight in the desert a highway for Elohim. Because the voice of him who cries out in the wilderness. You go to Matthew 3, verse 3. For this is the one who was spoken of through the agency of the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling out in the wilderness. Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his beaten tracks. And you keep reading through here, and you get it's true, I baptize you in water towards submission, but the one coming after me is mightier than me, whose sandals I am not worthy to carry. He will baptize you in the Holy Spirit. His winnowing shovel is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge with his threshing floor and gather together his wheat into the barn. The chaff, though, he will burn up with inextinguishable fire. Think that wheat into the barn, when we're reading that Job 39, with the oxen and every green thing and the seed going into the barn. You got that winnowing shovel here. Got the two of them there. It's almost like a staff there. But check it out. So that voice, but every valley will be exalted, and every mountain and hill will be made low, and the crooked places will become a level place, and the rough places a plain, and the radiancy of Yahweh will be revealed, and all flesh together will see it. For the mouth of Yahweh has spoken, said the mouth. A voice called out. You think that'd be that same voice? Because John would be teaching these things. And he said, what shall I call out? All flesh is grass, and all its loveliness is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, because the breath of Yahweh blows on it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of Elohim will stand throughout the eon. Now we know about the desert rose and its veils, and I believe it's Isaiah 35 and 33, and you got that in the desert, that rose that ends up blooming, and Elohim coming with retribution, and so it's got the king and queen hidden right in here, and people totally miss it here because John is preaching out of that. I think he's teaching a whole council here. Because look, at the same time, John had a garment of camel hairs and a belt of leather around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. Then Jerusalem and all Judea went out to him, and all the region around the Jordan, and they were baptized by him in the Jordan, pouring out their sins. But seeing many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his baptism, he said to them, progeny of vipers, who warned you to flee away from the coming indignation? in that case, produce fruit in keeping with submission. Because, he's teaching from that Isaiah and other spots. So, with those veils, he's got to be teaching about the king and queen. And do not think to say among yourselves, we have Abraham as father. For I say to you that out of these stones, God is able to raise up sons for Abraham. He's not speaking about just stones from the ground. He's speaking about from the shepherd, the stone of Israel. And then that new pebble, the stone sitting before Joshua the high priest. He's speaking of the king and queen. Isn't that kind of funny, though, how that desert rose, these dreams are tied to a horse that will never tire, and how that kind of goes to that Isaiah 40, and with that he doesn't faint or tire, and it's got that fading flower in there with the desert rose veil that's hidden in that even. So it's kind of neat, because like that Ezekiel 38:10, words come to a mind. I'm sure he's not going to tell you, I wrote that about biblical prophecy. No, he probably thought it was all organic, but I guarantee you the Spirit put it in him. Now, so we know the queen sitting on the white horse. The dreams, that one that lay is that way she moves in the logic of all my dreams, because, about the twins of the row, and there's a Constantine clip I showed in, I think, the Desert Rose video, and I think I also showed it in the Star Will Lead Forth Jacob video too, but how twins think alike, and, she was hoping for you to see what she saw and feel what she felt, so as she lays, this way she moves in the logic of my dreams. How in the dream they relate, I was laying down crawling, but really the parable of it was I was seeing what she was seeing, the queen. And the dreams are tied to a horse that will never tire. You get that white horse. But when they come back here, so I'll meet you at the altar, I'll be the one in white. Well, the bride's in white, they're here, they're coming for the slaughter, because I saw a messenger standing in the sun. You gotta think, they'll be raised up with eagle wings. So he called out with a loud voice, saying to all the birds flying at a high point in the sky, come and gather yourselves together for the feast of the mighty God. So that, I think that feast too, that's that wedding feast. Because, the bride has made herself ready. The marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. So that you can eat flesh of kings, flesh of commanders of 1,000, and flesh of the mighty men, and flesh of horses, and of those who sit on them, and the flesh of all, both free men and servants, and both lowly and eminent. And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war with the one sitting on the horse and their army. Because the horse, the king, the rider, the queen.